CrossFit and functional fitness are some of the best ways to build a strong and athletic body quickly. But they're also some of the sports that cause the most amount of injuries and niggles when people get into the sports, due to the fact that they're so bloody high impact and there is a huge demand for skill in some of the movement patterns. But they also trash your joints if you're not moving well. So many people complain about issues with spine, knee, shoulders, thoracic, wrists. But if we can get the body moving well through those specific movement ranges freely with stability and strength, we can heavily reduce the amount of pain that people experience. So with that being said, in this video, what I'm going to be doing is breaking down the key movement patterns that tend to cause issues due to lack of poor range of motion and mobility, and I'm going to help you fix them if you stick with me. My name's Sonny Webster, and I competed in the 2016 Olympic Games in the sport of weightlifting, and I've worked with over 40,000 people worldwide improve their Olympic weightlifting and their mobility, and that includes some of the best CrossFit athletes in the world. So arguably the most common area that my athletes that do CrossFit or functional fitness describe feeling pain when it comes to training is generally in the shoulders. And that comes from a whole array of different movements such as burpees, shoulder to overhead, handstand push-ups, muscle ups, toes to bar, and everything of the kind. So we need to think about how can we prepare the shoulder and build stability and strength for a range of motion so that when doing these movements, we're not falling into poor positions. So here's my first exercise. This one is an absolute gold mine of a movement, and it kind of encapsulates everything that you need, from improving range of motion to building stability and building strength all in one go. So big bang for your buck with this baby, okay? So SOTS press, this can be done in a lot of different variations, but we're gonna focus on the snatch one now, okay? Bar is resting right up on top of the traps. I'm just gonna spin around and show you this. You see how that bar is resting right up on top of my traps? That's crucial, not down the back, okay? So right up on top of the traps in this movement. I'll always set my feet in the receiving position of my snatch. So again, although it may not necessarily be snatching, it's still gonna improve our squat mobility when we go down to this bottom position. Now, when I'm in this lowest range, I'm focused on keeping my knees forward over the toes, and then I'm trying to keep my chest up and having good thoracic extension. My elbows are then tucked underneath the bar, and then from here, I'm pressing into my overhead position. I'm making sure from here that I'm controlling the lower, and I'm trying to keep the lower body as still as possible when I'm pressing through the movement. I like to work 5 sets of 5 on this movement, absolutely fine. The key thing is control with this exercise. So we're working both external rotation, thoracic extension, wrist mobility, hips and ankles all in one go here. Amazing movement. Now, a few of you are going to be looking at that and going, Sonny, you're taking the piss now. There's no way I can do that movement. There is, because you can scale it. So if you're first starting out learning the SOTS press, start from a standing position. Squeeze your bum and get comfortable pressing like so in a standing position, keeping the body still. Once you have done this, you're then going to go down to a halfway squat. Now, when I'm in the halfway squat, I'm focusing on really loading the legs in this position, still keeping the torso upright, and I'm pressing from here. Over time, what you're going to find is you're going to be able to get deeper and deeper in this bottom position and press from the lowest point of the SOTS press. Once you've got that full range of motion, this then becomes an exercise that you can load up in. Now, what's a good weight when it comes to SOTS press? I'd say if you can do 3 to 5 repetitions at around 50% of your body weight, great. If you can get closer to around 70, 80% of body weight, 3 to 5 reps, probably looking at expert stability and strength in the bottom position. Right, second movement. This one's an absolute banger as well, and it's bottom squat plate raises. And just like with SOTS press, the reason why I love this movement is because we're not only looking at shoulders when we're doing this exercise, we're also hitting hips and ankles under load, which is brilliant. So first things first, top tip. When you get into this movement, you don't need any more than like a 5 or a 10 kilo disc, but I want you to set with your feet hugging the plate like so, with the toes very slightly turned out. This is important because we're creating enough room then for the hips to sit into our bottom position. Once my feet are set there and they're flat on the floor, I'm then bringing my plate out in front of me and holding it like so, holding it on the sides and taking a full grip. You'll notice how my elbows are pushed into my knees from this position. And then from there, what I'm doing, keeping my knees forward, my feet flat, I'm bringing my plate up and into my overhead position. Now I'm trying to hold balance here, keeping the arms as straight as possible, and then I'm lowering the plate under control. I bring that plate back into between my legs so my knees are forced out, so my foot is staying flat on the floor, and then I'm raising up again, holding at that end of range and controlling the lower. That is probably the biggest mistake that people make when they do this movement. They do it too quickly. They don't hold the end of range where we're trying to develop stability and strength, okay? And then the final thing is when they're coming back down, there's too much lower body movement. Try and keep the head completely still, lower body still, and just isolate the movement here of the shoulder. Again, 3 to 5 sets, absolutely fine. With all my priming mobility, I only want you spending 10 to 15 minutes a day doing these mobility exercises. That's exactly what we do in the daily MO. You don't get great in mobility by just all of a sudden doing 3 workouts on it, spending an hour and expect to be super mobile. It's an extended period of small amount of time being consistent that leads to the best results. Don't forget to go check out Daily MO if you haven't already. Next up is thoracic spine. Now this is a crucial one if you're doing CrossFit, purely because the amount of kipping movements that are required for you to do whenever you're doing anything gymnastic based, such as toes to bar, muscle ups, etc. If you struggle through range of motion of your thoracic, it makes it very difficult for you to be efficient in the kipping movement. So again, there's a common theme with a lot of the exercises and drills that we've been doing so far. We're targeting multiple areas in one go. This is an absolute fan favorite, and this is called Rightbacks. Nice simple one for you to be able to do at home if you've got a ball, or at the gym if you've got a wall ball, but you'll need that and a plate. Now, when I'm setting up for this exercise, what I'm doing is I'm putting the wall ball right into the lower of my back. I'm keeping my feet up, and I'm making sure my bum is staying on the floor here. From there, I'm taking my shoulders back and behind the wall ball. So do that without the plate, get a feel for that, and all of a sudden you'll feel already that you're getting put into great thoracic extension. For a few of you, this is gonna feel really tight, okay? Now, from this position, what you're gonna then do is take the plate up and overhead. We're then gonna let the disc go back behind the head. The head's gonna come through. We're gonna feel that stretch at the end of range and then come back in front. Each time you're going back, try and keep those arms straight. Let the head come through just like you would do when you're kipping, and then return the plate back in front of the body. I'm using a 5 kilo disc here. I don't think you need to use much heavier than that or a 10 kilo. The key goal here is to build and accumulate repetitions at that end of range, like I said, and feeling the stretch through the lat and the tricep as you go back. Most important thing, as I mentioned here, is when we're taking that plate back, the head is coming through and the arms are staying straight. You'll feel the midline working as well when you're going back into this position. So the next one is our kettlebell thoracic opener. Now, I'm going to advise that you either get a mat or a couple of these pads when you're doing this movement, so you don't absolutely destroy your knees. But what I'm doing is I'm setting them just outside shoulder width in terms of where I want those knee pads. I'm then going to grab myself a couple of sturdy kettlebells. You don't want them to be too light here, else they're just going to fall all over the show, okay? I like this one as a static stretch because, again, it really allows you to breathe and stretch into that end of range when you're doing the movement. So I'm moving the kettlebell out to just outside shoulder width and away from the body here, okay? So I can really lean into this. I've got my knees on the pads like so, inside the feet down. And then from there, I'm gripping with the palm facing up on the kettlebell. So once I've got my grip here, the goal is to drop the chest down towards the floor, keeping the arms straight and feeling the stretch now through external rotation, but also this then pulling through the lats. So I'm breathing and breathing out, relaxing into the movement, holding at that end of range. I'm trying to get to the point where my chest is sitting below the hand line and I'm holding here. I'm at like a 7 out of 10 uncomfortable, but already over the period of the 20 seconds I was just holding in that position, my chest was starting to get lower to the floor. Again, this is a great one to open up the shoulders, the thoracic for any of our overhead movements or any of the kipping ones too. Next up is the hips, and 90% of people neglect this area. And if you're anything like me and spend a lot of time at a desk, you can get extremely tight through the hip. And this becomes an issue in something like CrossFit or functional fitness because there's so many movement patterns that you'll be doing, from wall balls to thrusters to lunges to squats to snatches to cleans, that require you to break 90 degrees, which is why we need to have great range of motion in the hips. And this isn't just about flexibility. This is about building stability and strength through the articulation of the hip socket. So I've got some key exercises here for you that you can start building into your routine that will really make those bottom positions feel a lot more comfortable. And this is exactly why I put such an emphasis on you actually working through mobility pre-training. Because if you're jumping into a workout and you haven't mobilized your hips, you're going to be moving through some substandard movement patterns when you actually start to build into that workout. And it won't actually be until the later part of the workouts, whether you're doing thrusters, cleans, or wall balls, where you're starting to actually break that 90-degree barrier and work the muscle through a full range of motion. So again, just as much about as this having good movement patterns and reducing risk of injury, this is about you actually having a better quality standard movement and actually building muscle much faster. This first one's such a nice, easy one, and it's the couch stretch. And the reason why I love this one is because you can do it at home. You don't need to be at the gym to do this movement. So it ties in nicely to what I was just telling you about. Grab yourself a bench, sofa. It's called a couch stretch for a reason. But what you're going to do is you're going to hook the foot onto the top or the edge of the couch like so. And then from there, you're dropping your knee down. Now, this one's great, again, if you spend a lot of time seated because you'll shorten through the hip flexor. When we're doing the couch stretch, what we're doing is we're trying to drive those hips forward like so and tuck the bum back behind the foot line here. So once in this position, I'm focusing on keeping my hips square and I'm keeping my chest up and my eyes pointing forward. And I'm feeling the stretch down now through the quad and through the front of the hip like so. As this starts to ease, you can actually work your bum a little bit further back, maintaining extension through the hips and hold in this position. Again, this becomes super beneficial for us in any movements where we have to hit extension. Again, like when we're snatching, when we're cleaning, or even like you think movements where you're kipping and your feet are going back behind hip and shoulder line, you have to be able to extend through this position. So it becomes a really good warm up for us. I tend to hold for about 90 seconds in this position, and over the period of the 90 seconds, I'll increase the intensity of this stretch. If you also want to increase it, a nice simple way to do this is to actually take the hand from supporting and bring that up and over the head. So we're lengthening through the side that we're stretching and holding. All right, our next movement is the KAC Squat. Now this is a great one. There's absolutely no hiding on this movement. And again, like the theme we went over with the shoulders, we're going to work adductors, ankles, and hips all in one go, whilst working on torso position. So, getting into the KAC squat, what I want you to do is take a wide stance to your outside shoulder width, almost creating like an A with your feet to your hips, right? Now from here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna load, front loaded with our kettlebell. You can hold it like this, or you can turn it on its head and hold it like so. Now, to begin the KAC, we're gonna break one knee, and we're going to start squatting into this side. But simultaneously, as we squat into the side, we're going to turn the toes up towards the side on the other side, and we're going to keep the torso upright and chest pointing forward. We're then going to push away with that leg, return to the A position, break the knee on the other side, let the toe pop up, and then again, hold in our bottom squat. Now, when I'm in this bottom squat, what I'm focusing on doing is keeping the knee tracking over the toe, foot staying flat, torso staying as upright as possible, and then this leg is straight, feeling the stretch through the adductor, okay? And then from there, like I said, to stand back up from this position, I'm pushing smoothly with that leg so the torso stays upright, and then transitioning again to the other side. Again, a great dynamic stretch for you to be doing to mobilize in all the key areas that you'll need to be in if you want to sit deep in those bottom squat positions. Remember, one of the key areas that prevents people from sitting deep with an upright torso position in anything when we're loaded overhead is tightness through the adductors. So this is a great one to put into your build-up routine. And finally, we're moving on to the ankles. Now, this is probably one of the key areas that I see people struggle with the most, especially if it's to do with anything like running, box jumping, weightlifting, you name it. We need good range of motion in the ankles so that the hips, shoulders, thoracic don't end up having to compensate for poor range of motion in dorsiflexion. Okay, so this is why this has to need to be in anyone's program if they struggle with mobility. I've got a couple of amazing exercises for you now. The first one is quite challenging. We're going to be doing the loaded pistol squat, but don't worry, I've got a slightly easier variation for you to do as well. So we're going to need that kettlebell again. So for the loaded pistol squat, this is way too heavy. For the loaded pistol squat, what we're going to be doing again, we're going to be front loaded with our kettlebell like so. From here, what we're going to be doing is we're going to go 1 foot out in front of the body, down into our bottom of the squat, and then push with the leg like so to stand up. When I'm going down into that bottom position, I'm doing my best to control the descending phase to the bottom of the squat, keeping the leg as straight as possible, and then pushing with the leg to stand up. You can then alternate sides. No doubt you're going to have one that's easier than the other. But again, focusing on that knee tracking over toe and then pushing with the leg to stand up. This is a great one because it's getting you used to, again, like I said, work through the ankle dorsiflexion, work on thoracic extension because we're front loaded, and then utilize the quad to stand up at the lowest range. If you can't do that, and it is hard, then you can set up a box behind you and just start off by actually just working. I'm actually going to show you. I've got a box over here. Come with me. What you can do is just with the way the bench is set up here, we can go down, kiss the box or the bench with your bum, and then stand up from that. That's going to get you used to strengthening and loading through the quad and the ankle in that range. Over time, you're going to be able to drop that lower and lower through the movement. And for the final time with the trusty kettlebell, we're going to do box elevated or bench elevated, kettlebell loaded, ankle glide. Now this is a great one again because what I'm using is the load here from the kettlebell, making sure that the heel is staying flat onto the bench like so, and focusing specifically on that tracking of the knee over the toe at the end of range. As I'm coming back here, I like to do a little stretch through the hamstring as I'm doing this, but then again, putting emphasis on trying to get as far forward with that knee over the toe in the end of range, applying pressure through my kettlebell, and then returning back. Again, you want to accumulate quite a lot of repetitions with this exercise. 10 to 15 is absolutely perfect. Most important things when you're doing it though, is making sure the hips are staying pointing forward and that knee tracking is directly over the second toe. I don't want to see knee collapsing in like so. I don't want to see heel popping up off the floor. I just want to see that tracking straight forward into the bottom position. Extremely important for us to be able to maintain, again, a good upright torso position. But most of all, load the quad in the bottom range of the squat. You think about whenever we're loading in weightlifting movements, generally we're going to be overhead or front loaded. If we let too much load sit into the hips and in the glutes, the chest drops. So it's really important whenever we're doing our mobility, we're thinking knees forward, load those fucking quads so we can keep those elbows upright and have a much happier bottom position of the squat. Mate, we can't miss this last bit. This is the secret. This is the secret sauce. Now, if you do a lot of box jumps or running, this is an absolute bonus for you, right? Get yourself a bar as part of your warm-up. Kick those shoes off. What I want you to do is spend a little bit of time actually releasing the fascia on the bottom of the foot. Now, you'll see I'm running my foot over the barbell like so. You can get really tight in the bottom of the fascia of the foot and also to the backs of the calves as well, which has a huge impact on ankle dorsiflexion. So spending literally 60 seconds each side, rolling out the bottom of the foot, you're going to feel some sharp sort of popping pains as you're doing this movement. Also a great addition for ankle mobility. So remember, if you're doing CrossFit 4 to 6 times a week, functional fitness, whatever it may be, mobility is not optional, it's essential, and it's something that you can build into your warm-up routine or something that you do before you get to the gym for a number of reasons. Not only is it going to allow you to work your muscle groups through a fuller range of motion, allow you to be more efficient with the movement patterns that you are doing, but it's also going to help reduce your risk of injury, which is crucial. Remember, we train for fun. Now, if you found this video useful, I've put together a full step-by-step guide to help you improve your range of motion, develop strength and stability through it on a daily basis through the daily MO at the Mobility Manual. I'm going to pop a link to that below this video. It'll be the best investment that you make into your training this year. My name's Sonny Webster. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.